Make sure that you have the overview of the Revelation churches. It's called Exhibit F. Make sure you have a copy of that, okay? Now, you're going to get copies tonight. Yep. I need two people. Chris and Tracy will do it. One of those, one of these. Couples can get one, individuals can get two. If we got more, you can hand them all out. I got plenty more. F, yeah. Okay, you got it. Is this study going well for you? You know what's so unique about the first three chapters of Revelation is not only is it a now subject, because this is actually taking place today, as it was in the very beginning of the church some 2,000 years ago, 2,000 plus. But you can see it's like taking a trip through church history. That's my point. You're learning church history by studying the Revelation, the churches of Revelation. Okay? And tonight, we're going to get into the church at Pergamos, and you're going to start seeing false religions rise up. Around 200 and 300 AD, 200 or 300 years after Christ, these false religions started popping up everywhere. And the church was getting flooded with false doctrines. Just like it is today, it hasn't quit. And so we're going to look at some of those. You got your Bibles with you tonight? Okay, we're going to go to Revelation chapter 2, and we're going to begin reading in verse 12. Okay? Let's go ahead and put that up, Josh. Revelation 2:12 through 17. Revelation 2:12 through 17. Here we are. This is Jesus speaking to John. He said, "Write the following to the messenger of the congregation in Pergamum. For these are the words of the one whose words pierce the hearts of men. I know where you live, where Satan sits enthroned, yet you still cling faithfully to the power of my name. You did not deny your faith in me, even in the days of my faithful martyr Antipas, who was executed in your city where Satan lives. Nevertheless, I have a few things against you. There are some among you who hold to the teachings of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to eat things that were sacrificed to idols and to commit sexual immorality. Furthermore, you have some who hold to the doctrines of the Nicolaitans. So repent, then, or I will come quickly to war against them with the sword of my mouth. But the one whose heart is open, let him listen carefully to what the Spirit is presently saying to all the churches. To everyone who is victorious, I will let him feast on the hidden manna and give him a shining white stone. Written upon the white stone is inscribed his new name, known only to the one who receives it." Now, short and sweet. But they were living according to what the writer here, John, says. They were living in the seat of Satan. And, you know, we had studied on the book of, on the church of Ephesus, and we'd also learned on the church of Smyrna. Now, think about this just for a moment. This is not the church at Jerusalem. These are 7 churches in a foreign land that we know as Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. So it's north. It's on the coast of the Aegean Sea, and it's surrounded by the enemies of God. I'm just going to give you straight up. The enemies of God live in these cities, and there's a baby church there. Does that remind you of something maybe? In America, we have cities that have been given over to evil, and in those cities, we have churches there. Right? So everything that you're seeing in these churches of Ephesus, in the church at Smyrna, and now the church of Pergamos, you're going to find your church or your friend's church or someone's church in the midst of that. Can you imagine right now being a church in Chicago, Los Angeles, Portland, wicked cities that are just destroying properties and killing people and all this stuff? I mean, church in New Orleans. You'd have to battle the devil himself down there. Think about that for just a moment. And then think about the church in Africa. The church in Africa, the little baby churches in the villages out in the jungle somewhere, and Islam breathing down your neck. They're constantly under fear and oppression of Islamic tribes and killers, ruthless. This is not reported on the natural news. They're not going to tell you about the church of the persecuted. But the church has been persecuted ever since Jesus walked on the planet. So we need to get used to it. Now, here in America, in Charlotte County, we don't get much persecution. You get persecuted in Charlotte County? No, we don't know what persecution really means. We lived in Tulsa. They're not getting persecuted there. They got more churches than they don't have churches. They got a lot of churches. So the area that you live in, it must be dominated by Christians who pray in order for you to live a decent life, correct? And Southwest Florida is fairly decent. We have low murder rates. We have all kinds of good things happening here. I am seeing it change a little bit with the influx of people from around the country that are coming here just simply because of the ease of the tax situations that are here in Florida. And they're moving here primarily for the sunshine. And it's okay. I mean, we'll run out of land pretty quick because this is a small state. But thinking about that, and then condense that down to your own home, your own family. Probably not being persecuted by family members. You know, they might fuss with you or argue with you about doctrine, but they're not really persecuting you, trying to kill you. You know, they're not doing that. But they might fuss with you a little bit, you know. The point I'm trying to make is that we have a society here in Southwest Florida that's pretty friendly to Christian churches. And people like that. And they move here because of the peace that they can have. You know, you don't have to live in fear about going out on the streets. You got people being interviewed in Chicago thanking Donald Trump that they're removing all of the illegals and putting troops in the streets. They said, one guy said, I actually went to the corner market without worrying and without carrying my gun. I mean, could you imagine living like that in America? I can't. I've never lived that way. That you're so afraid you can't even go down to the corner market and get a gallon of milk. That's wrong. It needs to be changed. And the church needs to change it. So, we're going to stop there. Now, let's look at the scriptures here. Let's look at, okay, let me give you some information about the city. It's 55 miles north of Smyrna, and it's not right on the coast of the Aegean Sea. It was a center of emperor and pagan worship, just like Ephesus and just like Smyrna were. It had a very large university with a very large library on all kinds of false religions. Okay, they studied the stuff there. It was a very wealthy city and a very fashionable city. It had temples erected to many false gods, 5 or 6 of them. And one of those gods was the god of medicine. I didn't know that. Who was worshipped under the sign of the serpent. Isn't that interesting? So, you remember the serpent on the pole? The sign for medical? Well, where did that come from? It came from God. And the point is that the devil will take what God has and pervert it for his good, so that he can take control of people like he's done in these cities we've studied so far. Now, go over to the book of Numbers, chapter 21, verses 4 through 9. Let's look at what it says here. Okay, we got it or no? Numbers, chapter 21. That's in the Old Covenant. I'm just messing with you. Book of Numbers. It's right between Deuteronomy and Exodus. Here we go. Numbers 21. Okay. I didn't write that one down, Josh. I'm just going to pull it up here. Okay. Numbers 21:4. It says, "And the children of Israel, they journeyed from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Edom, and the soul of the people was much discouraged because of the way. The people spoke against God and against Moses, wherefore have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, there is neither water, and our soul loatheth or despises this light bread." What was he feeding them? Manna? Yeah. They called it light bread. I don't know why that is, but... "And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Prayed that the Lord, that he takes away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set him on a pole, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he looks upon it, he shall live. Moses made a serpent of brass and put it upon a pole, and it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived." What does that speak to you about? What is this a type and a shadow of? The cross. Jesus became sin. So Jesus can be compared to the serpent on the pole, right? And over in Matthew 4, Jesus talks about that. And so the comparison is that the serpent on the pole for God and his purpose was to be healing. See that? And so what these folks did, these heathen, these pagans, they took the serpent on the pole and worshipped it. It became an idol to them. You see what I'm saying? The devil always perverts everything that God does. He changes it to fit his agenda, I guess, fit his desire and purpose. Okay? So this city was under that. Now, Pergamon actually means to be married. The other meaning means to be elevated. Now, it speaks of the time when the church was elevated to a place of power. Now, we're talking about the late 2nd century, early 3rd century, okay? Right about 200-300 years after Jesus had died on the cross and ascended to heaven, okay? This is when the church became married to the world, okay? Historically, it corresponds to a period of time in which the church was married with the state of Rome through Constantine. Anybody ever hear that before? Constantine and his successors. He made Christianity an official state religion. And he said everybody in the kingdom of Constantine is now a Christian. Okay? So that's how it happened. Constantine is said to have a vision of the cross with a voice saying, "In this sign conquer." So the cross became a war tool in the hands of the Romans. Anybody ever see the movie called Kingdom of Heaven? Wasn't that the greatest movie? I mean, that was absolutely the greatest movie. It was about Israel's battle with Islam back in the Crusades. And they would carry this giant cross out in front of them, and it was supposed to save them, right? But it didn't save them. And so this is what Constantine believed. He believed that if he invited the Christian religion into his kingdom and used the cross, there was some magical power in it that would make him invincible. That's what he believed. Okay? So, he was told at the sign of the cross of the Christian religion, if he followed it, he would become emperor of the entire world. He'd become king of the world. That's false promise, isn't it? You know what direction he's under. Well, that's going to happen again, you know. The Antichrist, they're going to set the cross up, and the Antichrist is going to think that if he has that cross out in front of him, he'll be invincible. You'll see it. You'll see it later on. He liberated Christians. He adopted their religion. He bestowed honor upon all of the fivefold ministry. And he put them in positions and gave them thrones to sit upon. Interesting.